Welcome to Lesson 3, Illustrator Creative Cloud Essentials. In this lesson, I'm just going to take you through building some simple files. And I'm not actually going to use any lesson files. I'm just starting by pressing Control-N or Command-N if you're on the Mac. I'm starting with a new untitled document, and I'm just going to leave it print and click OK. When you're working with Illustrator, you select tools, and then you click and drag to add them to the artboard. Now, how do you change them once you've selected them? Well, you can use your selection tools, and you'll notice that if I take my solid selection tool and click and drag on these handles, I can of course change the size of this item. Now, if you do not see the handles, make sure that you go under View and that it says Hide Bounding Box. If it says Show Bounding Box, then those handles are not appearing. So I'm going to leave that turned on and come back out. Now, if I get outside one of these corners, I can even rotate this object. Now I'm going to press Control or Command-Z to undo that. So if you want to make something a little wider, you can grab the handle. If you want to make it a little taller, you can grab, again, the center handle on either of these sides to adjust that size. If you want to make it overall larger, you would grab the corner. If you want to keep your shape proportionally the same, you would hold the Shift key down. And I can grab a corner now, and you can see that now proportionally my shape stays the same, but I'm scaling it up or down. I want to go over a couple other things with you. Under Window, you have a panel that is called Transform. And if you look at this Transform panel, it does give you the width and height, and you can change this to whatever you want. If I want this to be 2 inches, I can even type in 2 and then put the double quote mark, press Tab to go to the next window and type in 3 and double quote mark. And you see it converts it into being points for me. You'll also notice that you have a reference point over here. That's where the X and Y coordinate goes. And right now it's set to go to the upper left-hand corner. So if I type in here 0 and press Tab and 0, you'll see that this shape ends up in the top left corner. If I click the center reference point and then type in 100, Tab 100, you'll see that now that center of that square is exactly at 100 by 100. So it helps to understand the reference point and what it's indicating, and also how to change those measurements once you put them in there. You'll also see that you have angle in here, and that you also have skew. One of the big things to understand when you start working in Illustrator is that once you change the angle or something like the skew, that is now the position of the object and it goes back to 0. So it doesn't know it's rotated exactly 30 degrees like you might see in InDesign, for instance. If you want to go back to where it originally was, you have to remember that you rotated this 30 degrees and then go back 30 degrees. Or, of course, you can press Control or Command-Z several times to go back where you started. Now, I'm going to do a little exercise here that's always a lot of fun, and it's used in the book. I'm going to make a triangle. And before that, I'll even show you how to make a regular star. I am clicking and holding on the rectangle tool and selecting the star tool and clicking and dragging, and that creates a star. Now, I have not released with the mouse yet. I'm clicking and dragging, and if I press the arrow key up several times, you'll see that I can add points to that star. And if I press the arrow key down, I can take them away. So as I'm doing this, I'm dynamically creating my shape, and then I click to release my mouse. So again, it has to be while you're clicking and dragging. I'm going to use that same feature to click and drag and create a triangle by pressing down until I reach 3 sides. I'm holding the Shift key down, which will keep this straight, and then I release. I'm taking my solid selection tool and just clicking and dragging this into a ray because I'm going to create kind of like a star shining thing from this, and I'm going to get rid of my other star. I want to rotate this around in a circle, and this is a really fun exercise that will work with anything. Circles, patterns, pictures of dogs, whatever you want. But I want to create this as a perfect circular shape. I'm going to make it a little smaller so it fits on my page. Put it approximately in the middle, doesn't have to be. And I'm going to the Rotate tool. Now, here's the thing. If you just click and drag, you'll see that the first click that you made is what you rotate on. Click and drag. So if I click here, for instance, and drag, it's going to rotate on that axis. But I'm randomly setting this up to rotate. I want to set something up that's more exact. I'm pressing Control Z several times to go back to where I was, and I'm selecting the rotate tool, making sure I have that active, and I'm clicking where I want my axis, but not just clicking, so don't do it yet. What I'm doing is holding down my Alt or Option key and clicking where I want my axis. And when I do that, this rotate dialog box appears. This is when you have to do a little bit of math, not a whole lot, but you have to know that in order to create an entire circle, it has to flip around 360 degrees. So I have to divide that up to decide how many of these rays I want to use. So I have to pick a rotation or angle value that equals 360 when all the rays are added up. So I'm going to select an angle of 18 degrees, and I'm clicking on Preview and Copy. And that puts one next to the other. Now, what if I want to have additional rays? If I press Control or Command D, that means repeat my last transformation. And you'll see that since I picked a value of 18, that does add up to 360. I have a perfectly circular rotation of that triangle. And of course, now I can just click and drag to select all these items and change the color. So in this lesson, you just learned some fundamentals about creating shapes in Adobe Illustrator Creative Cloud.